I think we're ready to go. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining our webinar. Please allow me to introduce myself. My name is Nikos Christakis from Multipoint. I'm based in Athens and responsible for Greece and Cyprus. My colleague Marcelo Prentak is also online, and Gwynduff from HCL. Today's webinar is part of our CyberStrong webinar series, and today our partner HCL will discuss and demo an automated modern way to manage our endpoints. So, Gwynduff, are we ready to go?
Ready to go from my side. Hi, everyone.
Great. So let's move on to our agenda. Okay, we'll start with a short intro on our CyberStrong webinars. Gwynduff will take it from there to present HL and BigFix and the challenges it addresses, and we'll present the BigFix Enterprise Management Platform, and we'll end with a Q&A session. A bit of housekeeping. All attendees are on mute, but please use the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen to ask as many questions as possible. We will try to answer them during or at the end of the webinar. The entire session should last about 45 minutes. Right. So many things have changed over the past months, but while the world was trying to digest and cope with the health aspect of the situation, you had to enable almost all of your colleagues to work from home, implement changes within weeks. Moreover, you had to reassure that your organization and colleagues are safe from bad actors. Cyber attacks have skyrocketed, and they are trying to take advantage of the situation, looking for weak spots. We read daily reports about this. At Multipoint, we thought about it and how we could help and inform you on how you could tackle these challenges. We invited our partner vendors to participate to a webinar series we call CyberStrong. A short intro about Multipoint for the ones who do not know us yet. Multipoint is a value-added distributor of cybersecurity auditing and monitoring systems, among others, in the Mediterranean region, from world-leading software vendors such as HCL, of course, Tenable, Varonis, Thycotic, Alien Vault, Qualys, Networks, Netmate, and others. Multipoint was founded in 2009, and from our headquarters in Israel and offices in Greece, our team of engineers cover the region on-site and remotely supporting our partners and customers. Good. So this is the best part where I mute, grab my coffee, and pass it on to Gwynduff. Gwynduff, are you ready?
Yes, I'm ready. Thank you.
Excellent. So I'll stop sharing from here.
There we go.
Great.
Perfect. Can you see my screen okay?
Yep. Ready to go.
Right. So today we're going to be talking about BigFix. You might have heard of BigFix before. If you have, that's great. I'll provide this will be a really good refresher on kind of where the current platform is. But if you're new to BigFix, then this is a really good introduction into what the product is and what it does. But as we've already mentioned, the current situation globally has meant that IT organizations have had to kind of rapidly move towards a working from home workforce. And BigFix has actually been doing this way of managing devices throughout the history of BigFix. It's been something that we've always done really well, but it's really come to the fore over the last months or so, where our current kind of BigFix customers have really appreciated the ease of managing their workforce from home, and also looking forward to the coming months. There's going to be a transition as well. So companies will have a mixed workforce, some still working from home, some who are more vulnerable maybe, some still then transitioning back into the office through the ease of the pandemic itself. So that's a major point I'm going to cover, and a bit about the technology behind BigFix and kind of how it enables you to manage that workforce. There's also a huge kind of cost reduction effort across many IT organizations as well. And this is predominantly around kind of tool consolidation. Many tools become incumbent, especially during the last few months, where some flaws have been highlighted where, once the machine or a device is off the corporate network, then the tool doesn't become or is not as useful as it should be. And also about, reducing the overall risk. One thing that has happened, and it's been a major struggle, counteracting what was already a difficult situation, is more vulnerabilities being exposed and more threats out in the wild. And, these threats trying to be exploited. While the workforce is working from home, the perpetrators know that there is an increased risk to those devices, whether they're unpatched with operating system patches or application patches, whether they're secure from a kind of device policy perspective, just trying to exploit the situation to their benefit. So reducing the overall risk is always the primary objective, with cost reduction and the other aspects of endpoint management after that as well. So the situation before we all kind of had to adjust to the new normal, so to speak, was that companies struggle with the disparate amount of tools that they have. There are a lot of security tools out there, all great products, but then integration becomes a key factor as well. You see information on one panel, and that's not flowing to your secondary or tertiary systems in terms of getting information integrated together for you to be able to action on it appropriately. You can have all the information in front of you, but unless you can use that information effectively, it's just data sitting there, and you're not able to make the best use out of it. And what's made everything more poignant is, of course, trying to manage all the things that an IT organization or a security team needs to manage, but now with the added issues or complexities of the workforce not being at the office or within the corporate network. So BigFix, from a technology perspective, has always had a sort of a kind of a work from home solution, so to speak. So BigFix doesn't rely on having any VPNs in place. We can easily and securely provide control and management of endpoints, whether they're on the corporate network or they're off the corporate network, even off the VPN. That's no problem for BigFix. But we introduced a specific work from home solution, which added in a couple of additional features that we brought out very recently. I'll talk about some of these features later on, but essentially it allows you to streamline enrollment of devices. It allows you to control policies through Windows 10 and macOS APIs, and moving towards a more modern client management interface and mode of managing those devices as well. And then also, all the goodness of BigFix, so the ability to keep them continually patched and compliant, providing the remote support capabilities that we've always had in the platform on top of this. So we looped this into the work from home solution, and this has been popular over the last few months, of course, because of the said situation. And then there's kind of tool consolidation. So this is one of the most common conversations I have with customers, where there's a disparate amount of tools. Some are heavily used, some there's only a couple of features used out of the tool set. Maybe it's a kind of very niche requirement that it was originally bought in to do, and then that requirement has kind of changed into something else, and the tool is no longer useful or effective. Or maybe you've just got a lot of crossing of tools in terms of their capabilities as well. And it's unclear as to which product or which tool you should use for which specific use case. If you've got too many options in front of you, you can sometimes muddy the waters, so to speak. BigFix has a rich feature set that focuses on both the security and operations side. And it could be the tool that brings other tools together from an integration standpoint, but also help you consolidate the tools. So you can go from 3 or 5 tools down into a single product, especially from an operating system perspective, where you might have specific tools for specific operating systems. BigFix is effectively OS agnostic and works across Windows servers, laptops, desktops, Unix, Linux, and also Mac OS as well. So very much able to manage the entire environment from a single product is one easy way to look at tool consolidation. And then peeling back the layers into what functionality and requirements you actually need, then bring out some other elements of tool consolidation within the BigFix family of features as well. Now, the reason for tool consolidation is usually cost reduction and reduction of complexity. And the cost reduction is not always focused on the cost of the software itself. There's a lot of other added cost that comes with it and added complexity. Just from a agent perspective, trying to consolidate the amount of agents you've got running, consuming resources on the target, it's an age-old issue that has been around since endpoints have been around. And you've got additional complexities and added requirements of training the staff for each product that you might be using. You've got infrastructure for those products as well. You might be servers or cloud subscriptions, or it might be network bottlenecks. You've got various different reporting UIs, and there's no single central consolidated view of your risk posture or your compliance posture, or just simply your patch state. What is the current state of my patch posture across the environment? Maybe you have to access 2 or 3 different tools in order to get that view. Maybe it's OS specific. And then specific processes and integrations with other products. The more tools you have, the more difficult it is to provide a a unified system of integrations between each major product set that you're using. And all this adds time, adds people hours, it adds complexity, and overall just generally inflates the cost of carrying that particular product. So the benefits of BigFix is around trying to consolidate some of those tools, but also not replacing everything. Integration is a key factor when you're looking at both IT and operations. You will have other products there that are doing a great job and are made to measure, so to speak. And BigFix has an extensive integration landscape and also a mature API, which allows you to integrate with those tools. Overall, you're looking at trying to reduce your overall running costs, both from an infrastructure perspective, a people time perspective as well. So you could take people away from the traditional requirements of patching the various operating systems. Maybe some of that has to be done manually, and bring them onto new projects of rolling out new products and enhancing what you already have in the environment. Instead of the old analogy of painting the San Francisco Bridge, where once you've reached one side, you have to clean your brushes and then start from the other direction backwards. It's a continuous process of having your workforce, your operational workforce, continuously having to do day-to-day tasks, and then which doesn't allow you to change or enhance your current processes or move towards a more modern way of managing the devices themselves. So yeah, looking at how you manage the time spent on these tools to just keep the normal operational. So how is BigFix different? One of the major advantages of BigFix is its architecture. So I think I can have annotations here. Perfect. So everything in BigFix revolves around a single central server. So that single central BigFix server, it's not a a large server as such. Typically for environments up to 5,000 managed endpoints, you'd be looking at something like 4 cores, 16 gigabytes of RAM, and a couple of 100 gig of space in order to cache data. And that's it. That's enough to manage, 5,000 endpoints. If you were to go to 50,000 endpoints, then again, it's not a huge server. You're probably doubling the amount of cores, doubling the amount of RAM, and that would be plenty for 50,000 devices. And the single BigFix server can scale up to about 250,000 managed endpoints, just from a single deployment, single server deployment. Now, the other advantage is that BigFix server will be in communication with all your managed systems. But the only port requirement in BigFix is a single port, 52311, and that's for all the communication between all the infrastructure components you see. So if you have machines, connecting over Wi-Fi off the VPN, over the internet onto a kind of relay running in the DMZ, then that's a single port connection that comes back through the firewall. And that's all the BigFix needs to operate. Same with your kind of data center connections or remote offices. Even if you're working on 3G, LTE, satellite, it doesn't matter. The communication is all just that single port. So very, very easy to manage, very, very easy to roll out as well and support ongoing. And it's an easy conversation to have with your firewall team as well, if you only require a single port. A lot of other products out there will require multiple ports for multiple features, and it becomes very complex and very unnecessary when you have a corporate-wide rollout of a product like that. The agent, which runs on the target system, so BigFix is an agent-based solution. It's extremely lightweight. So we're talking about something like 2% CPU, 10 to 15 megabytes of RAM. And this is not an average. This is a cap which is set on the agent itself on the managed system. And it's the same for laptops, desktops, or even servers in the data center. It's that single lightweight agent. And we have agents, as I mentioned, for a multitude of operating systems, some of which are here. We actually kind of have a few more than that as well. For example, agents for ARM on Raspbian, and a few others as well. I think we have, Amazon Linux as well, we have agents for. But it basically spans all your Windows, both current and legacy, Linux and Unix, different flavors, and also your Mac OS X as well. So typically that will kind of account for most of the devices running in any environment. And the legacy element is important as well. So BigFix has been around for over 20 years, and we have agents for pretty much any kind of legacy platform that you might be using as well. If you still have even Windows 2003 or Windows 2000, or more recently Windows Server 2008, or XP machines on ATMs, or it might be industry control systems where you cannot really kind of upgrade the system. It's set and it is what it is, but you still want to manage the risk and want to manage that endpoint. So we've got backwards compatibility with our legacy agents. So you can keep those connected for that kind of single unified view and single control as well. Ultimately to manage the risk of the entire environment. There's no point managing the risk on a portion of the environment while not having visibility or management of another portion. And what's been useful over the last few months is BigFix's ease enable of managing people working from home or over 3G connections or LTE in the kind of work from home situation that we find ourselves in today. So the BigFix infrastructure is essentially a lightweight, expandable. It's very easy to expand infrastructure out onto additional data centers or parts of the environment as well through that kind of single port interface, very easy, lightweight agent. One thing I want to mention later when I'm talking about BigFix 10 features is kind of the ease of deployment of that agent as well through the modern client management, specifically for kind of Windows 10 and Mac OS X as well. Need to clear the drawings, and there we go. So the feature set of BigFix, so that's the infrastructure, but what can you actually do with it? So this is an overview of the modules that are available. And the modules span kind of 3 primary modules. So you have your BigFix compliance module, you have your BigFix lifecycle module, and your inventory module. Now we have also the work from home solution, and that's what I kind of covered a few slides ago. I'm specifically taking components out of the other feature sets and targeted at kind of a working from home scenario. And then we also have add-on modules as well, which you can add on to any of the above modules to kind of add additional capability or specific kind of niche requirements. One of the most popular ones since January has been our Windows 7 and Server 2008 extended security update support as well. And many vendors aren't able to provide that outside of the Microsoft world, but we have this ability in BigFix to do it. And just like you were patching any other patch, whether it's kind of current or kind of legacy. So let's look at BigFix compliance. So the major feature of compliance is the ability to assess your environment against industry standard checks. So these would be your CIS checks or your PCI DSS checks. We support a multitude of checks out of the box. You can see them down here. CIS and DSSSTIG I mentioned, also FDCC and PCI DSS. And these checks are out of the box for a multitude of operating systems and applications as well. So you can simply flick a switch in BigFix and get an instant assessment of your devices, your servers, your environment against these industry standard checks. Now we can do this because of the efficiency of the BigFix agent itself. We do everything in BigFix through what is called relevance, and it's a highly efficient, independent language for us to be able to interrogate a machine. It doesn't use or have dependencies. So you might be kind of traditionally using on Windows WMI to do a machine interrogation, which in itself is unreliable and a little sketchy. BigFix uses its own intelligence and its own inspectors in order to understand the state of the machine. And the key differentiator there is its efficiency. So we can ask thousands of questions continuously of a target without stepping above that 2% CPU cap I mentioned earlier. So that ceiling 2% CPU on any given device allows you to continuously ask questions. One of the other major features is the lack of scanning in BigFix. So with BigFix, you don't do any scanning. You don't have to schedule a scan in order to understand the state of the environment. The endpoints will be feeding back any changes to the BigFix server in a continuous fashion. So when a state of something changes, you will know about it straight away. And when you're looking at the BigFix console, what you see is almost an instant snapshot of your current environment. There's no kind of waiting around for the next scan to happen or wondering how old a data point is. It's all fresh data. It's all real-time data coming back into the console itself for you to be able to effectively use. And in terms of the compliance module, it allows us to ask questions and interrogate the device against the industry standards that you might be interested in. To be honest, in the across EMEA, Europe, Middle East and Africa, we probably see CIS and PCI DSS as the most common ones. DSSSTIG is used mostly kind of by US organizations, but they also have very useful checks, with device securing no matter where it is in the world. Nothing changes. But yeah, most popular ones in terms of compliance, industry compliance, we see is CIS and PCI DSS. Now, compliance also gives you features like BigFix patch management, so you can do your patch management as well. It gives you the ability to do real-time inspection, so you can ask questions in real time of the environment and get answers back straight away. It's basically almost a question and answer session with your entire environment in real time. So you ask a question, it's like, who's the logged on user, or do you have this file present, or what is the SHA value of this file? And it will go out as a query to the endpoints, and they'll report back in a few seconds with the answer to your specific question. And that's not coming from a database, you know, it's not coming from a cache. It's a live question going to the target, asking and coming back with the real-time answer as well. You also get the ability to manage third-party antivirus. All kind of the most common ones are supported. You can do network self-quarantine. So you could have, for example, another product which would be looking at intrusion prevention, or maybe a next-gen EDR product, which be looking at kind of firing alerts if it detects some unworldly behavior on a device. And that could trigger the API call to BigFix to self-quarantine the device itself. Now, self-quarantining in BigFix means that it will block all network connections, but still maintain the BigFix connection. So you can still continually manage it and patch it or fix the device if it was compromised. But you close off all network connections to stop it from, you know, anything from spreading to another device if there is a piece of malware that is looking to try and spread through a SMB vulnerability or something else. So moving on to BigFix Lifecycle, this is the primary operational product of BigFix. So again, it includes patch management and query, but then it also includes your traditional operational tool sets such as you know, OS deployment, so ability to do full bare metal deployment of operating systems in the environment. Ability to do kind of self-service applications, so self-serve the end user themselves, so they could have an application store that they could choose applications from in a kind of a self-service manner. Also, we have advanced task sequencing and automation built into Lifecycle. That's for your SQL cluster or application cluster patching as well. And then your more kind of traditional stuff, software distribution, power management and energy management, and remote control as well, which has been kind of very popular over the last few months in terms of trying to help the workforce. If someone's got a VPN issue, then, you know, how do you help them to fix it? With a remote control solution, you can do remote control sessions out on the internet and then help the end user with a VPN connection to restore them back to their, you know, corporate access. And then the final module here is BigFix Inventory. This is very much focused on software asset management. So it might be a software asset management team or a relationship between the operational team and the teams managing the procurement of software within the organization. And the main aim is to try and reduce costs. And there's two elements to BigFix Inventory in terms of cost reduction. One is avoiding compliance fines. So, you know, the big vendors such as, you know, Microsoft, Oracle, SAP, IBM, they all like their audits. And the main aim of the audit is to try and find, you know, lack of compliance in terms of software. So over deploying on a piece of software where you didn't have enough licenses for, that's a compliance fine. So BigFix Inventory allows you to manage those licenses, and it gives you visibility of what you've got deployed and how much of it you're using, and compare that with your license contracts and expiry dates of those in a single view, to give you that ability to, you know, prevent a nasty audit fine from one of the kind of the big vendors that we traditionally see a lot of audits from. And the other element is around, you know, consolidating software. Now there's two branches to this. One is risk and one is cost. So if you've got a lot of products deployed on the environment, that's a lot of vulnerabilities to exploit from a risk perspective. And if those software products aren't kept up to date, then your risk posture, you know, grows and grows and grows into kind of an unmanageable risk where it's impossible to, you know, remove, patch, or circumvent the amount of opportunities for a perpetrator to be able to exploit a device. You know, he has a list of software that he could exploit if it's not kept up to date. And the other side is cost. You know, if you're paying for licenses for those products, but they're not being used, BigFix Inventory can show you the usage of software and help you then understand where you need licenses and where you can pull those licenses away and remove the product from the target. Thus reducing the risk because there's less vulnerabilities to expose, and also reducing your expenditure on software on an annual basis. And that's kind of the main aim of BigFix Inventory. Now, there's other features built into it, for example, ability to look at vulnerabilities of software as well. So it will tell you what products you've got installed on what device and the known vulnerabilities of that particular version of that product that you've got as well. And that can help you manage the risk and prioritize where you need to focus on in the short term to give you that kind of long-term kind of risk reduction. And then we have some add-on modules. Now I'm going to talk about these a little bit later on because they do kind of focus on the BigFix 10 launch that happened a few months ago, both the BigFix Insights and Modern Client Management. I think I've kind of mentioned some of Modern Client Management because it's part of our work from home solution as well, but I'll go into a bit more detail. And then of course the Windows 7 and Server 2008 ESU add-on as well. If you have Windows 7 devices or Server 2008 machines, then that's essential to allow you to continuously patch those devices with the extended security updates that Microsoft are providing for those products of operating systems that have since gone end of life. So let's talk a little bit about kind of managing that risk. This is kind of another conversation I have all the time with our customers. Is there's two major questions here. One is, do you actually know what your risk is? A lot of organizations don't fully know what their risk is because they don't have up-to-date information. Maybe they don't have a consolidated view of their devices. Maybe they have to manage the risk independently. So, they manage the risk through a couple of products for their Microsoft estate, but on Linux, they have to do a lot of that work manually. Or maybe there's cloud deployments that you don't have that much visibility on in your traditional operational tool set. And then this exposes certain areas to risk because you don't have that single consolidated view of your environment. But then, many things can cause that risk posture to balloon out and become unmanageable. I mentioned too many tools. That creates complexity, adds cost. It reduces the amount of time the workforce has, the operational and security team has to actually do work. They're continuously kind of trying to maintain tool sets or trying to fix tools which aren't working, which brings time away from actually doing the day-to-day work of managing the risk, looking at vulnerabilities and closing them, patching or removing software, or just simply patching the operating systems themselves. And you can see the kind of how the risk posture starts to slowly kind of grow out. Then you got kind of unreliability of tools as well, dependencies. These dependencies might be my SCCM product relies on a machine being on the domain. If it's not on the domain, then I don't have any management of it. That's a dependency that can cause that risk to grow, especially in the work from home situation. VPN. So maybe the VPN solution that was being used was fine for day-to-day, some machines working from home, but the majority of the workforce at the office, there's no bottlenecks. But then take the entire workforce and take them away from the office, and suddenly your VPN tunnels are flooded and you lose the ability to manage the devices through that VPN tunnel because it's saturated and not able to manage the throughput of data. So again, dependencies can cause you kind of that risk posture to grow. If you can't manage them over the VPN, then can you patch them effectively? Can you kind of get an understanding of what software is going out of support or what software needs to be updated? And then to add to that, the working from home adds a huge list of complexities and risk to managing that device as well. So quickly you can find yourself, the kind of risk posture grow into an unmanageable way. And BigFix is great at reducing that risk back down to something manageable. It doesn't have dependencies. It can help you consolidate your tool sets and bring that single view. It easily provides management of machines, no matter where they are, at the office, working from home, on the VPN. It doesn't matter where they are from a BigFix perspective. And really provide that kind of unified view as well from a reporting perspective, and give you the reports that you need, the information that you really need on a day-to-day basis. And the other factor is the quality of that data you're looking at as well. This is just an example chart of some of the reports available in BigFix. For example, patch exposure over time, or exposure by severity and age of the patch itself, give you kind of that snapshot of the overall risk posture of my environment. But the quality of the data is key. I mentioned earlier that BigFix doesn't rely on any scanning at all. This is real-time information coming back into BigFix. So when you access a report, you know for a fact that this is my current state. And then it's very easy to move on quickly to, okay, how do I action this? What's my next steps in closing this risk? And those are the kind of things you kind of need to consider when you're managing a complex environment, mix of working from home and office, mix of devices, servers, operating systems, Linux, Mac OS, etc. Consolidating that into a single platform, a single view, and a single tool to manage and action the requirements as well. So that brings me on to BigFix 10. So a little bit about the history of BigFix, really. So there was an acquisition of the product by HCL last year, and there was a huge investment in the BigFix product itself. And BigFix has been doing what it's been doing great for many, many years, but we wanted to push the boundaries into new areas. We're great at the basics. BigFix has been doing the basics of patch management, software distribution, software inventory and compliance for years and years and years, but we really wanted to push the boundaries. And over the last 12 months, we've had the opportunity to invest in the product like we haven't had before. Under HCL, it's allowed us to more than double the size of our development team, which means that we can be much more aggressive with our timelines, and we can be much more creative with where we want to take the BigFix product in the next 3 to 5 years. And the first result of that was BigFix 10. Less than a year after the acquisition, we were deploying our first major platform update with 3 major new features built into that platform as well. And those features are focused on 3 areas. BigFix Insights, which is a way to consolidate information across multiple tools into a single view, and provide analytical views and access to the data in BigFix to help you manage the environment, manage risk, and visualize data. So you have standard reporting in BigFix, but what BigFix Insights brings is that historical context. Think of it as a data lake. It's a pool of data that sits and synchronizes with the BigFix data, but also allows you to consolidate that data with other data sources as well. There's many elements to other data sources. It could be ITSM, it could be something like ServiceNow data. You want to look at your BigFix asset information, but you also want that business intelligence data on top of it and mixing it with that data as well to provide your reporting views. Or it might be focused on security or vulnerability management. So you've got tools like Qualys, Rapid7, or Tenable, and you've got great vulnerability data there, but it's not mixed in with your endpoint management data. BigFix is telling you that you're exposed X, Y, and Z, and you want to compare that with what your vulnerability management tool is telling you. And again, that ability to aggregate the data together and bring out reporting. And on that vulnerability management element, I'll kind of mention this a bit later. We've got a brand new product coming out very soon around unifying vulnerability management with BigFix. whether that be kind of Qualys or Rapid7 or Tenable or other vulnerability management solutions. We have this new integration coming out, which is based on the elements of BigFix Insights from a reporting perspective. Really exciting stuff coming very, very soon. The second one is modern client management. So operating systems, Windows and Mac OS X have been going in this direction for a while. And it allows you to do agentless management of the device. So traditional management relies on an agent. The modern client management is a move towards managing through the APIs of the platform. Apple OS X has been doing this for many years, and this is the normal way to manage a device in the mobile device management world as well. And this is a step towards that unified endpoint management. And kind of the first step in BigFix 10 was modern client management, which we launched out of the box in April. So this allows you to do device enrollment over the air. So you can simply send a link to the target user. They open the link and then they sign in with their corporate credentials. And then BigFix then handles the exchange and the authentication. And then the device becomes managed through the OS APIs that are available. And through those APIs that are available, then you can do configuration management, enforce policies on the device, but also allows us to push the BigFix agent to the device to bring out, all the other features of BigFix that we do through the BigFix agent itself. So it's a very, very easy and streamlined onboarding onto BigFix, and allows you to easily deploy the agent where the target user doesn't need administrative rights on the machine to deploy the agent. They simply need to sign on with their corporate credentials, and then we can utilize the modern client management APIs of the machines. And one of the next steps coming very shortly is the device enrollment program that Apple has. We're also going to be supporting elements of that as well to do complete out of the box enrollment of a device, straight from the cellophane. You're unwrapping, you're opening a new MacBook, and it instantly asks for your corporate credentials in order to sign in, and then it becomes a BigFix managed device out of the box. And the third element is multi-cloud. So you can run BigFix anywhere. You could have endpoints, out in the wild. They could have be on servers in the cloud, Azure, Google Cloud, SoftLayer, kind of wherever they are. As long as they can have that single port connection back to a relay, then that's all that's required in BigFix. But having visibility of the agent in a cloud environment is sometimes not enough. You want visibility of the cloud provider as well. And what multi-cloud does, it has a connector to those major cloud providers. So Azure and AWS, and soon coming out as well is Google Cloud. We've got the ability to pull information from the provider itself and consolidate that view for you. So you can understand exactly where an agent is sitting. That's on my Amazon EC2 infrastructure, and it's got these security policies applied to it through the AWS management itself. That's information you can't get from the target system. You can only get from the provider. So that's what the major features of multi-cloud are. And you can discover devices and operating systems in your cloud easily, and then push the BigFix agent to those discovered devices from there as well. It also has a relationship with on-premise as well, so it's not just about multi-cloud. It also provides the same kind of capability and visibility onto your kind of VMware environment on-premise as well, and helps you consolidate that view together to be able to easily manage your servers no matter where they are. And these are just kind of empty promises in the BigFix world. Just in the last couple of months, the timeline of deployments has been kind of staggering. So luckily our developers were easily able to transition to kind of working from home, and we continued the aggressive nature of our development, and we're able to launch BigFix 10 on time at the end of March. We also launched that BigFix work from home solution shortly after, in light of the pandemic that was happening. And then we had a BigFix inventory launch in April, and then we've had 155 additional content-based releases as well. So this is new content in terms of new configuration management sets, new kind of patch content and capabilities across the various modules of BigFix, as well as the 5 kind of major product releases I mentioned. And then the latest one, which were released in May, was a new ServiceNow integration. So this is a new integration between BigFix and ServiceNow CMDB, and it's a bi-directional integration as well. So it allows data in BigFix to be pushed to ServiceNow, but also allows us to aggregate data from ServiceNow into BigFix as well. That particular integration has a roadmap to expand out onto other CMDB solutions as well. And that was kind of launched only kind of a couple of months ago in May. And in terms of the integration landscape itself as well, so let's have a look here. So these are kind of existing integrations that we've already kind of had. We launched our ServiceNow integration in May. So this was a new one. And we have our new kind of Qualys integration coming very, very soon. This is actually in beta at the moment with some of our kind of early adopters. And we were kind of looking to launch this in the coming months. And that's step 1 of that integration. So after that, we're also going to be encompassing, Rapid7 and Tenable into the same integration landscape. But Qualys was kind of the first one out of the bat. And we have a number of other integrations here. You can see we already have an integration with Rapid7 as well. And this likewise for Tenable, we have an integration already. But these are kind of other integrations that are being kind of developed between the 2 products. And then it's a rich integration landscape. This is just a snapshot of what's available. So the most popular ones like Forescout, Cisco AMP, and Palo Alto, for example, and some IBM security products as well, like QRadar and Resilient. We also have an integration with Splunk, which is in here. And also the API of BigFix is very mature and really allows you to integrate with kind of any third-party product that you might need to connect with as well. So very, very easy to integrate, and on top of the out-of-the-box integration landscape that we have in BigFix. So I'm coming to kind of the end of the presentation, so to speak. I have not been monitoring any questions, so maybe 5 minutes at the end we'll kind of spend, unless there's any questions that have come up now.
Yes, Gwyndaf, we do have a couple of questions.
Okay.
You want to do it now, or do you want to wrap up and?
I think now is a good time, actually. All right. I've just got I'll leave this executive summary up while answering the questions, and then yeah, fire away.
Okay. So the first one is, how do you handle rogue machines? Detect machines with no BigFix agent.
Great question. So BigFix has a built-in capability to do a network discovery. It's actually using the Nmap open source product, and you can designate scan points in order to kind of discover devices on the network. Now, it won't only just discover traditional endpoints, it'll discover any IP device. And through the Nmap catalog, it'll provide you a kind of a best guess of what that device is. So you get, with that feature, inventory of all your IP devices, printers, cameras, anything that's connected on the network, but also identifies, traditional operating systems, which you can then streamline the deployment of the BigFix agent to through the results of that network discovery scan.
Okay, good. So here's the next one. Can BigFix wipe remote devices?
Yes. So this is a capability of modern client management. So with those APIs provided by Mac OS X and Windows 10, we can do a remote wipe of a device through a single command, and that does a kind of complete kind of MDM wipe, so to speak.
Great. Here's another one. How long does it take to get a patch deployed to all endpoints, and how's the process?
patching is something that we've done for such a long time in BigFix, and we've got the process nailed down to as efficient as possible. So in terms of how quickly, if I was to take a small patch, then it would take minutes to deploy out onto the entire estate. Now, what will make the deployment last longer is the size of the payload and the way you have your BigFix infrastructure set up. So for example, if I want to patch a cumulative update for Microsoft Windows, that could be upwards of a gigabyte or even a little bit more in terms of a payload. Now, if I'm patching that within one of my offices, then there would be a local relay cache. It's basically just a service that runs on an existing machine and provides a local cache for those target systems. And those target systems can then get the payload, get that binary from that local relay. So it's basically as quickly as they can fetch the item is as quick as you can patch in BigFix. However, there is another feature called BigFix peer-to-peer, peer nesting, which allows machines to distribute the binary across the network, peer-to-peer between themselves in a local subnet. And that actually increases the speed of deployment, especially for those larger patches, because machines will be connecting directly on the LAN, quite often on a dedicated network connection, physical network connection as well, which means you could patch a gigabyte in a few minutes instead of waiting 20 minutes for each machine to gather the patch itself.
Okay, here's another one. Does BigFix inventory handle contracts, renewal dates, match license to user, etc.?
So we have a contract feature in there as well, but you have to manually add your contract data in. There's no contract import feature in BigFix inventory. So you can manage your contracts, but it's a case of creating a contract entry, adding the dates of that particular contract, and then assigning the particular products to that contract itself. From there, it's very automated. You can create your contract specific reports, but just to be transparent with you guys, there's no like bulk import of contracts feature in BigFix inventory. It's a bit more kind of easy to get BigFix inventory set up than traditional products like Flexera or Snow, for example, which have some of those kind of additional features, but inherently are much more difficult to get set up and get return on investment.
Okay, excellent. Thank you for the presentation and for answering all the questions. Great. Do we have anything else, Gwyndolf? Yep, this is the overview.
Yeah, so the only other thing I wanted to add was if anyone who joined the call today would like a demonstration, then yeah, feel free to reach out to Multipoint and we can get a demonstration arranged. Depending on kind of what products you might want to see, you could kind of highlight a particular module you might want to have a demo of, but equally, if you want to see a demo of all the product stack, then that's fine as well. So don't be shy. If you want to see how BigFix works in real time, in the real world, then yeah, just reach out.
Great. Okay, Gwyndolf, thank you very much again, and thank everyone. Thank you everybody for attending the webinar. Yes, well, looking forward to the next one. And if you have any questions, reach out to us. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks a lot, everyone.